begin with breaking news out of the White House, where US President Donald Trump has signed tariffs on imports.
Where the self-imposed deadline set by President Trump to introduce trade tariffs.
The US auto industry is in serious trouble, and the cause isn't a supply chain glitch or a sudden drop in demand. It's Mexico. In a bold and unexpected move, the Mexican government has just cut off critical exports of auto parts to the United States, throwing American car production into chaos. This decision comes as a direct response to President Donald Trump's newly imposed tariffs on Mexican imports, a policy meant to pressure Mexico into renegotiating trade deals in favor of the US. But instead of backing down, Mexico has struck back hard, and the effects are already rippling through the economy. Factories in Michigan, Ohio, and Kentucky, which rely on a constant flow of Mexican-made components, are now at a standstill. Thousands of auto workers are facing layoffs, supply chains are breaking down, and the price of cars is expected to skyrocket. Major automakers like Ford, General Motors, and Stellantis are in crisis mode, scrambling to find alternative suppliers before their losses spiral out of control. On Wall Street, investor panic is setting in, sending auto stocks tumbling. What happens next could define the future of the North American auto industry for years to come. Will the US government stand firm and risk further economic damage, or will it be forced to backtrack on its aggressive trade policies? Let's break it all down. But before we continue, make sure to subscribe to stay updated on major global developments. Now let's dive into what's really happening. For decades, the US auto industry has depended on Mexico to keep its production lines running smoothly. The North American supply chain was built on efficiency, with parts flowing seamlessly across borders to keep costs low and production high. Mexico's low labor costs, well-established manufacturing infrastructure, and close proximity to the US made it an ideal partner for American automakers. Factories in Mexico produce everything from transmissions and wiring harnesses to full engine assemblies. These parts are then shipped to assembly plants in the US, where final vehicle production takes place. This setup has allowed companies like General Motors, Ford, and Stellantis to maximize profits while keeping prices competitive. President Trump's decision to impose tariffs on Mexican imports was meant to shift the balance of trade in America's favor, but Mexico's retaliatory move to cut off auto part exports has turned the tables. Without these essential components, US auto factories are grinding to a halt, and the economic impact is escalating by the hour. The effects of Mexico's counterstrike were immediate. Most US auto manufacturers operate on a just-in-time inventory system, meaning they don't stockpile parts in large quantities. Instead, they rely on daily shipments to keep their production lines moving. With Mexico shutting off that supply, assembly plants have no choice but to stop production entirely. Factories in Michigan, Ohio, and Kentucky, states where the auto industry is a major employer, have already begun laying off workers as production slows. Ford, General Motors, and Stellantis are struggling to find alternative suppliers, but the level of specialization required for certain auto parts makes an immediate switch nearly impossible. Tesla and Rivian, already grappling with supply chain challenges, are also facing potential production delays that could set them back significantly. For thousands of workers, the consequences are devastating. Mass layoffs mean lost paychecks, financial insecurity, and economic instability in communities that rely on the auto industry for jobs. The ripple effect is spreading to suppliers, trucking companies, and even local businesses that serve auto plant employees. For American consumers, the impact of this crisis will be felt at car dealerships and repair shops. The supply of new vehicles is already tight due to lingering supply chain issues from previous years, and with production grinding to a halt, dealerships will struggle to keep up with demand. Fewer cars on the lot means prices will rise even higher, pushing new cars out of reach for many buyers. The used car market is also set to take a hit. With fewer new vehicles being produced, demand for used cars will surge, driving up prices. Rental car companies, which rely on a steady influx of new vehicles to refresh their fleets, may also raise prices, impacting travel costs for consumers. Meanwhile, the auto repair industry is expected to see a boom as people hold on to their aging vehicles longer. But even that sector could be affected if the parts supply remains disrupted. Wall Street is watching this crisis unfold with growing concern. Auto stocks have taken a nosedive as investors react to the uncertainty surrounding the industry. General Motors, Ford, and Stellantis have already seen sharp declines in their share prices, and the effects are spreading to other sectors. Industries closely tied to automobile production, such as steel manufacturing, electronics, and logistics, are also experiencing stock price drops. Analysts warn that if this trade standoff continues for too long, it could lead to a wider economic downturn as companies struggle to adapt to supply chain disruptions and declining consumer confidence. President Trump's tariffs were meant to protect American jobs, but the immediate result has been the opposite. The backlash from labor unions and industry leaders has been swift, with many calling for an immediate reversal of the tariffs to prevent further economic damage. The political consequences could be severe. Many auto workers supported Trump's economic policies, believing they would strengthen American industry. Now those same workers are facing unemployment, and frustration is mounting. Calls for government intervention are growing louder, but the administration is in a difficult position. Reversing the tariffs would be seen as backing down, while continuing the trade war could push the auto industry and the broader economy into a deeper crisis. Diplomatic tensions between the US and Mexico are also at an all-time high. While President Trump insists that the tariffs are necessary to bring Mexico to the negotiating table, Mexico's bold countermeasure has exposed America's vulnerabilities. The Mexican government appears unwilling to reverse its decision unless the US removes the tariffs first, setting up a high-stakes standoff with no clear resolution in sight. Can the US replace Mexico in the supply chain? Some have suggested that US automakers should simply move production back to the US or find alternative suppliers outside of Mexico. However, that's easier said than done. Building new manufacturing facilities in the US would take years and require billions of dollars in investment. Many of the specialized auto parts made in Mexico are not easily produced elsewhere, meaning companies would face steep costs and significant delays if they attempted to shift production. China and European countries could potentially step in to fill the gap, but relying on overseas suppliers would drive up costs and create new logistical challenges. The reality is that Mexico plays an irreplaceable role in the North American auto industry, and cutting it out of the supply chain would be nearly impossible without major disruptions. While the US scrambles to contain the fallout, Mexico is already looking ahead. The country has been working to diversify its trade relationships, strengthening ties with China, the European Union, and South American markets. If Mexico successfully reduces its reliance on US trade, it could gain significant leverage in future negotiations. This crisis has highlighted a key shift in global economic power. For decades, the US has dictated the terms of international trade, but Mexico's bold response to Trump's tariffs signals that times are changing. If Mexico can stand its ground and still thrive, other countries may take note, potentially reshaping global trade dynamics for years to come. The US auto industry is at a crossroads. With production grinding to a halt, mass layoffs looming, and consumer prices soaring, the stakes couldn't be higher. The longer this trade war continues, the greater the economic damage will be. Will the US be forced to backtrack on its tariffs to save the auto industry, or is this just the beginning of a deeper economic crisis? Now, we want to hear from you. Should the US remove tariffs to restore the auto industry, or should it stand firm against Mexico? How will this trade war impact the future of US-Mexico relations? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.